guys, it's me, Dax Moy from daxmoy.com, bringyouwell.com, Fitness Marketing Made Simple, and about a billion, trillion, gazillion other sites. Basically, in some way, shape, or form, if you listen to this call, it's because you know me from one of my various groups, and that means that you're also kind of very aware that a lot of the work that I do is based around the idea of what a lot of people would maybe call self-help. That they would call, kind of goal achievement or life change, or, what I kind of more recently, I'm just really terming coaching. Okay. So it's a lot of my work now actually revolves around a coach's mindset, a coach's perspective of helping clients to win. And on that merry note, that's the reason for me being here today on this call, is because I've got someone who, at least to my way of thinking, has really epitomized the idea of being a person who's dedicated themselves to the journey, the full journey, the journey to becoming a winner. Probably maybe doesn't necessarily think of herself that way just yet, but she
not yet. Getting on that way though.
So we got Chris Tuck on the call. And basically, I just really wanted to chat to Chris today a little bit about her journey to becoming a winner, and more importantly, in some respects, kind of how she's sharing that winningness, because that's a real word. How she's sharing that winningness with her brand new baby, that book that you just finished writing, which I'm sure we'll get around to speaking about quite shortly, Chris. But first off, thanks very, very much for coming on the call today. I'm really looking forward to having a bit of a chinwag with you about this, because I know you're excited about the project, and I've been following it from day one.
Yeah, I am excited, Dax, but I'm even more excited to be speaking to you, my hero in my life.
Well, thank you very much. So we've known each other for a little while now, Chris. I mean, I don't know, can you remember how it was we met? I know it was on one of my programs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on your elimination diet.
Elimination diet course, of course it was.
2010.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah, 3 years now. I remember it well, Dax, because at the time I was thinking about going in for a hip operation, if you remember, and yeah, I came to your elimination diet training because I wanted to see how I could help myself through nutrition. I knew there was a way, but I didn't know whether I'd gone too far with the deterioration of my hip to reverse it. And to cut a long story short, I had, but your elimination diet seminar for that day really got me thinking about what I needed to do going forwards with my own health and fitness, and making sure that I didn't have to go and have my other hip operated on.
Right. And I know since then, I mean, we've done a hell of a lot of stuff together.
We have, yeah.
I think you must give me like 95% of everything you possibly earn, and probably 95% of everything you've got your eyes set on in the future.
Yeah. My husband's not happy with you at all.
No, I wouldn't be happy either.
But my education is limitless now. It's grown massively. So thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, all the programs you've been through now. So you've been through kind of the elimination program. You've been with the KCA specialist programs. What else have you done with me so far?
I did your internship with you.
Of course, yeah.
Where obviously I learnt the ins and outs of your business.
Yeah.
And I did IPC with you, which really has turned my the way I deal with my clients 360 degrees. So I work on mindset, nutrition, and fitness afterwards.
Right. Okay. Right. So, and I guess that brings us kind of neatly onto, a lot of the things that we're gonna talk about today, really, because in many respects, the project that you've just spent, how long have you been working on this now? This particular project?
This particular project since March 2012. Yes, well over a year. Well over a year.
Over a year, right? And yeah. So a lot of that is that's about your own personal journey, obviously, but you've managed to weave into this kind of, in many respects, both. What I think you've done very well is weave together a personal perspective on elements of your story, but also a coach's perspective on, moving forward, and how you kind of get yourself away from your past and moving toward a future that kind of feels better and more positive for you. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So obviously that's what I'd really like to talk about a fair bit today. I'm I know people don't necessarily know what the book's about at the moment. I'm deliberately being a little bit vague.
That's fine. Yeah.
One of the reasons that it really resonates with me is obviously a lot of people know that I come from kind of if you want to put it that way, what most people would call like a deprived background. Kind of a violent household, a violent alcoholic father, kind of all of this kind of stuff. I was 15 when I stuck a hunting dagger through my father. He wasn't my husband.
I hope he wasn't your husband.
No. From my father's heart, right? So kind of, he was beating up on my mum at the time, really violent, really abusive, and kind of he went a bit berserk one evening, and kind of so did I. And so I was 15 years old at that time. And if you go by what people tell me what was supposed to happen for my life, grew up on housing estates, grew up on social security and welfare. Grew up around violence and crime and all of the negative influences that are supposed to kind of when they all correlate, when they all come together, they're supposed to point a finger at you and kind of say, well, this is the kind of life you can expect for yourself. You're going to grow up to be this kind of man who does these kind of things. You're going to behave in these ways. And for me, I've been very pleased that not only have I managed to prove that pointy finger wrong, but I've managed to become the antithesis of all of those things. Yeah. And pretty much the larger part of my life is helping people to understand just how much personal power they possess. Right?
Absolutely.
So, you're right. And so one of the things that I'm really loving about your project, the book that you put together, and the programs and stuff that you're currently working on, is that pretty much you're an example of the same thing. All of the odds were stacked against you. All of the fingers pointing at you would say, she's going to be like this. She's going to have these problems. These things are going to happen. She's going to be this, and this. And you yourself have also managed to kind of say, well, that's your opinion, but actually this is who I'm going to be as I go through life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
2 fingers up at everybody, I think.
Absolutely. Two fingers up at everybody. That's fantastic, right? So, I mean, before we get on to the actual the book itself and the projects that you're creating off the back of it, I mean, give us a bit of a background on you, Chris. Like, tell us what what I was about to say. Whatever you feel comfortable. Clearly, you feel comfortable talking about a lot of it because it's all in the book. So
that's right. So
tell us a bit about Chris. So, like, what brought her to be this person who's on the end of this call today?
Okay, I'll try not to go on too much, but I was brought up with my 2 brothers and sisters. There was 4 of us, with my mum and dad. My mum left home when I was 7 because my dad, like yours, beat up on my mum and had affairs in and around the local area. My mum just couldn't hack it anymore, so she left. My dad shacked up with a lady a couple of doors down who had 7 daughters. And we all become one family, and we all moved into Bromley together into one household. While we was there, we wasn't looked after very well, but can't really remember a lot of going on at that point in time. But all I know was that I was searching for belonging and love outside the family, and I actually was befriended by a local man who ran a minibus service for children. So didn't see him as a threat, he just paid me some attention. Anyway, he went on to sexually abuse me, and that brought the police to my dad's and my stepmum's door. And unbeknown to me, my dad had been abusing my stepsisters and my younger sister Diane, who's heavily involved in the book. And that was too uncomfortable for my dad. So before we know it, overnight we was all whipped off to Wales, and we lived in a tent for 6 months. And why we lived in this tent during the winter time, and food was very scarce, we ended up stealing from other tents, eating grass, eating anything to fill our stomachs. I remember even eating dog food on one occasion because I was so hungry. My dad and Vivian, my stepmum, I've just changed her name, tried to get a house in Wales, but they wouldn't allow us to have one because we had left a perfectly good house in Bromley. So they told us to go back. So they upped and went overnight and left all of us children in Wales with no food, no money, nothing. And my eldest stepsister sent her husband to come and collect us. And she said when they did collect us, we were filthy, we were hungry and just neglected. So they took us in and got us help. my dad came back. We all got rehoused in another house, and my dad one day he got arrested for and put away for paedophilia, for abusing my stepsisters and my sister. While he was away, my mum came back on the scene and she was trying to get custody of us, but she couldn't. She had to fight it through the courts and everything. Vivian went on to abuse my siblings and myself by starving us, beating us, and basically telling us we wasn't worth anything, we were ugly, we would never amount to anything, and basically put us down in every which way you can imagine. Then my dad was put away for 3 years, so this went on for all that time. My mum was trying to get custody of us, as I said, over that time. We'd go to school with holes in our shoes, clothes not fitting. Nicola, we just went to school, and because our surname was Oliver, you can imagine the bullying and the name calling that we got from actually looking like an Oliver. So it was quite unpleasant being at school at that time. And then my mum actually ended up getting custody of us. So we went to live with her and my then new stepdad, because my mum had remarried and I had a new half sister who was 18 months old. And to cut a long story short, because we had put through so much shit with Vivian and my real dad, when we come to live with my real mum again, we didn't want to do the chores. We didn't want to do everything that they asked us. We were rebelling a little bit, so it was probably quite hard to handle. But we didn't know ourselves how to handle all of our emotions and our frustrations and everything like that. So we probably rebelled a little bit and made my mum's life and my stepdad's life a bit difficult. But he was an alcoholic and he would spend all the housekeeping. Mum had no money, he didn't work, so it was all benefits. We only ever saw any money we had pissed down the drain up the pub by him. So we got quite resentful towards him, and he tried to touch me one day, and I kneed him in the balls and told him if he ever did it again, he'd get a knife through him, and that would be it, because I wasn't putting up with that kind of behaviour anymore. But lo and behold, to me, it's only since writing this book that I found out, well, I knew he had abused my sister Diane between the ages of 9 and 12, but I didn't know that he'd actually raped her, and I only found that out 6 weeks ago. So I'm still trying to deal with that information, and I'm still trying to get Diane the help she needs in order for her to move forward, and hopefully we can go back and maybe take him to court again, because even though we took him to the police when she was abused, she didn't actually tell them the full story, because to her it didn't matter whether he raped her or abused her, it was the same thing. And because she hadn't been believed before with my real dad, he used that to his advantage and just said, you can't tell anybody because you wasn't believed back then and no one will believe you now, so therefore be quiet and put up with it. And so that's really my life in a nutshell, with the abuse up to the age of 15. I just left home because this man was a weak man. He hit my mum, he mentally abused my mum, he put us down, and it was not an environment that I wanted to be in anymore. And even though I left my sisters and my brother behind, because my eldest brother had already left when he was 15 because he had had enough as well, I had to get out and move on, because otherwise I would have probably done something like you did, because I couldn't put up with it anymore. And I decided that I wanted more from my own life. I didn't want to be in that environment anymore.
Wow.
So that's it in the nutshell, the abuse years anyway, up to the age of 15, 16.
So it's a powerful story, and definitely, I mean, what's amazing is obviously I've come to know you now over this last couple of years, and like how many, when you first shared the story with me, and kind of, it really hit home, partly because of obviously not the sexual abuse or any of those things, but partly because of some of the deprivation.
Definitely.
And certainly the fact that I know you as quite a strong and driven and focused person. So
I have been down on the floor though, Dax, and you've been there when I have. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's also an important part of the story is that there are a lot of people listening to this that might be, as you say, on the floor right now, and they think that's the only place they can be. Right? They've got the idea that, okay, you've been kicked down to the floor, and you're getting a kick, and you're taking a kick to the ribs while you're down at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And it starts to feel like that's the only place you can be. So what is it that's kind of been your driver to say you're not going to stay down there?
When I did have some really good friends, a few friends at school, especially secondary school, they stuck up for me and stayed by me. They stood by me. There's been various people all along that have helped me, actually, but I didn't recognise that until I'd actually written the book. But these friends helped me through a lot of stuff. And when I went round their house, I realised that my home life was not normal. I realised that even though I'd come to believe it was normal, that when I went to their houses, I saw the love that they got from their parents. I saw that they were automatically given cuddles. They were automatically fed. They didn't need to beg for food. They were automatically bought stuff. And whereas we had to wait for the man from the school board to come and buy us shoes and clothes every year, I saw a different side to life. And I just thought, that's what I want. That's what I want. I ain't going to put up with this anymore. So how do I get out of it? And I had one particular lady that just said to me one day, she goes, I said, oh, I want to get out of home, but I don't know how to do it. And she goes, well, you can do anything you like. And I'm like, well, what do you mean I can do anything I like? You're crazy. I've got no money. My parents have got no money. I've got 5 O-levels that I've just scraped by with because I found school really difficult because I missed a lot of school. How can I get on? How can I get out of this situation? And she said, you can apply to college, you can get funding, you can do this. And I went, but how do I do it? I said, because I'm 15 and my mum won't sign the papers and my stepdad won't sign the papers. She goes, I'll sign your papers for you. So she sat down and helped me get this application form to college where I did hotel management and catering. And that was the start. Just that one person turned around and said to me, of course you can do it. I'm behind you. I believe in you. And I thought, my God. And then when I went home and said to Mum, this is what I want to do, she went, okay then, well, what do I need to do? And I said, well, you just have to prove that you're on benefits and sign this bit of paper. And I was fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything was crossed that she would just sign this bloody bit of paper, because if my stepdad got involved, it wouldn't have happened. And she did. My application got accepted and that was it. I was off to college. But in the meantime, I needed to change my home life as well. So I went to the local church group and just said, look, this is my home life. I've got a college place. I need help. I need to move out. Are you planning on getting pregnant? No. Sorry, we can't help you. I went, pardon? I want more. I don't want to be a mum with a baby at the age of 16. Well, that's the only way the church will help you with housing. Okay, so by this time, Dax, I was already working at Woolworths on a Saturday, McDonald's on a Sunday, and I was holding a job down in the evenings as well to save up money so I could move out. So the landlord of the Walker's off licence had lots of bed sits, and I just begged him one day. I just said, look, this is my situation at home. I need a room. I just need something to help me. And he went, right, okay. He said, I've got this little bed sit just up the road. It's £110 a month. This is back in 1985, 86. It's £110 a month. It's not a palace. And believe me, it wasn't. It was it was the dregs. But it would be mine, okay? So look, cut a long story short, he just said to me, how are you going to afford it? And I said, look, I'm at college. I'm getting forgotten what is it called. I was awarded some money to get me through college. And I said, I've got this. This is my allowance. I can pay you. I'm working these jobs. I will get through. And he went, fine. That's fine. And that's what I did, Dax. I just left home at 15/16, into college, into my own bed sit. And my mum said to me, how can you afford this? You can't possibly do it. But what she didn't know is I opened up a wardrobe one day and I showed her that I'd got the contents of a flat inside my wardrobe. I'd been saving up my money and buying an ironing board, a kettle. I'd been planning it in my head for so long that I'd already got all the stuff that I needed just to move out. And that's what I did. I moved, but I organised it. I worked up to it. I made sure that I had the money. And then, maybe you can call it luck that I was in the right place at the right time to get that bed sit and to have that friend that said, yes, I believe in you. Looking back, perhaps I was in the right place at the right time. But back then, my God, it didn't feel like it. It felt like I was forever going to be in the life that I was in. And thank God I didn't stay there, you know, because a lot of shit happened after I left. But for me, that was the beginnings of me getting out.
A lot of things really come to mind in hearing you talk there, and that's, you know, saying about being in the right place at the right time. It really sounds to me that you did what most people either can't or won't or don't do, and that's actually you started to make it real. Okay, and we talk about this from a goal achievement perspective, and certainly from in terms of being a coach is. Like, you know, we always say, what is it that you want, right? So rule number one of getting what you want in life is to know what you want, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you became very clear. Even if you're at the first level of clarity, you were just clear on what you didn't want anymore, right? Well,
that's right.
That's a bloody good start, right?
Yeah.
So that moves you. What do you want? I want out of this place. I want to be somewhere else, right? Know why you want it. You had a very strong reason why for getting out of the place. And then what's interesting is that you started to make it real. Like, you started to have conversations with people that could affect the change. You started to take the actions that could affect the change. You didn't just sit around with your thumb up your bum and say, God, if only I had enough money. You started taking on Saturday jobs, Sunday jobs, evening jobs to actually start to collect. Yeah. And then as small as, you know, I guess something that comes to mind for me is as small as some of your actions might seem in some respects, they all added up into something quite big. Now, like every single piece of equipment you bought, that ironing board, the kettle, the cups, the knives and forks, whatever it is that you were storing up, that was all like a contract, a truth with yourself that actually, no, I'm taking. It's only a small thing. I've just bought myself a kettle. I've just bought myself a knife. But it's proving to yourself that actually you mean it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of, they can't see. I guess the chasm, the gap between where they currently are and where they're trying to get to seems so wide that they say, well, I'm not going to commit myself to this yet until I find some way of seeing the other side. And what it sounds to me like is that you basically said, well, I still can't see the other side, but I'm gonna start making the other side seem more real to myself. And you started to take the actions, right?
Yeah, I had to do it, Dax. The pain of being where I was too painful, and I didn't want it anymore.
Right, and I think this is a big thing, and certainly from a coach's perspective, certainly even before I used to think of myself as a coach, from a person who helped people to set and achieve their goals, right, is just this idea of taking small actions to start to make something big seem more accomplishable.
Absolutely.
And also what we're really doing when we're starting to do that, we're really just investing in ourselves and our dream. We're saying, my dream is to get out of here. I can't go and buy a house right now, but I can go and buy myself a kettle. Right?
Yeah, it was.
Right. But it's something, isn't it? And I bet you that in some small way, kind of whenever you opened up that cupboard to look inside, that was like your little treasure trove. It was like,
oh, it gave me a buzz.
Right.
Every argument we had, every put down I got, when I opened my cupboard, and I just thought, one day soon I'm out of here.
Right. And I think that's so important. It's certainly important for anybody listening who feels that the chasm, the gulf between where they are and where they want to be is, and regardless of the reason, whether it be because of abuse and a bad childhood or whatever, or because of any reason in life.
Any reason, yeah.
Any reason is the idea of taking the small step, or like do what you know. It's an old saying. Like people have said this, you know, forever, but kind of do what you can where you are with what you've got. And that's what it really sounds to me like what you did. There wasn't a hell of a lot you couldn't go to a bank and ask for a loan to buy a house, but what you could buy a kettle, and you could hold conversations with people, and you could get a Saturday job, and you could get It's doing what you can where you are with what you've got. And I think, you know, certainly for me, just in terms of hearing you talk, I don't think you're in the right place at the right time. I think you put yourself in the right place at the right time by actually proving to yourself how much you wanted it.
Yeah, you know, you're right.
That's really what it sounds like to me. I mean, so let's fast forward to kind of where you are now. Then, I mean, what's happening in the life of Chris Tuck right now?
Well, not to brag, but I've got my own home. I've got two lovely children. I've got a husband that I've been going out with, my boyfriend, when I was 15, and we're obviously married and still married a lot of years later. Been together, I think, 26 years now. So he's seen me back then and grown through with me. I don't have day-to-day money worries because I then went on to qualify as an accountant, even though I didn't get O-level maths and I was told I would never, ever become an accountant under any circumstances. Again, two fingers. So we are financially secure. We haven't got loads of money, but we are financially secure. But my past did catch up with me. At the age of 30, being a financial controller of an upcoming company that was going to float on AIM, I had Ben in nursery when he was 18 months old. I was doing 12-hour days. I was running the house. I was working really hard at work, and obviously they wanted me to be there more hours, but I couldn't commit to it because I had a young lad, a young baby. I had a breakdown. And that was just because I was doing too much, and also because I was still looking after my sister Diane all the way through my life, because she hasn't overcome it as well as me, put it that way. So I've had to. Diane was my constant reminder of my past all the way through, and I've been trying to help my mum and my other sisters and my brothers all the way through. I've been their mum, so I've always been there sorting their problems out. Yet when I was so I become overwhelmed with everything, just everything. I was overwhelmed, and I wanted another baby, but my periods had stopped because I was so stressed. And now looking back, maybe adrenally fatigued and all the rest of it, I just couldn't function anymore. And I ended up having counselling, and that counsellor turned around and told me that if I didn't cut ties with my mum, if I didn't put myself first, I'd be no good to anybody, and I just wouldn't be able to get on with my life. So that was the first time that I heard, look after yourself first. And if you put yourself first and look after yourself, then you help other people. So after that breakdown, I moved on through my life. And then obviously I wanted to try and get pregnant with my daughter that I eventually had in 2003, and I was being made redundant from my accountancy job at the Priory Hospital. So I thought, right, what else can I do? I only know accountancy, and my husband was saying, well, you're an accountant, you earn so much money, so why would you want to do anything else? And I'm like, because I can't do 12-hour days. I can't do the job I love, which is management accounts, because it's at a higher level and no one will take me on part-time doing that. So what else can I do? And I thought, well, I love fitness, because fitness got me through all those hours of when I studied. It got me through all the frustrations in my life. It made me feel fantastic, like, you know, those happy hormones going round, buzzing. So I thought, well, what else can I do? So I thought, right, okay, I'll go and become a fitness instructor. So again, my pain was so much that I didn't like my life then. So I thought, right, okay, what do I need to do? I found my course, I got my childcare, I got the money together, and off I went. So in 2004, 1.5 stone overweight, because I just had Charlie. Charlie was 4 months old. I went off and become a fitness instructor. I cried every weekend because I was out of my comfort zone. I didn't like standing up in front of people. But I got through that. I lost my weight. I then went on from the fitness instructor to running just community classes, to learning about nutrition, learning about Pilates, coming to see you, learning more about nutrition, more about postural awareness and assessment, about corrective exercise. Then I went on and done my massage course. So I've just been building on my love of fitness, but now it's more to help me become a health coach, in order, because I've modelled myself on you, obviously, to help people move through just getting by to actually being happy and winning at their life. As you said, winning is the name of the game. So winning to be happy, and that's what I do now, and that's what I call myself, a health coach.
Right. I mean, again, that's an amazing journey, but another kind of testament to so many people would have got caught up in the golden handcuffs there of like, well, I'm an accountant, I've got to stay with accountancy. You know, this is I've made my bed, I've got to lie in it. And again, it's just another example. You said, okay, this bed that I've made isn't really comfortable for me anymore. I want a different one. And you're willing to make the change and pay the price, which must have been quite scary at the time as well. You come from, if you like, as I think of it, you come from being financially insecure in your childhood to finally make, not wealthy, but making
not
some
wealthy, but comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. And now to suddenly going, okay, I'm going to put all of that at risk and start the whole bloody process over again. And that
Well,
must have been scary.
it was scary, but I just didn't. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It wasn't serving me anymore. And now that I've learnt more of the theory behind everything, as you said, if it doesn't serve you, why are you doing it? So at that time, I didn't know the
Yeah.
theory behind it, but I just knew that I could do anything I wanted if I just put my mind to it, and that's what I did. So much to my husband's disgust, he was like, I mean, I love the guy to pieces, but he's not the most supportive guy.
Right.
And it was like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing it? Don't be stupid. And a lot of my friends, why are you doing it? Don't be stupid. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I need to do it. And because I was at the Priory at that time as well, I saw the need for the mental health patients to have fitness in their life, because it did me really well. It kept my mental well-being in a place where it needed to be. So I went back to the hospital and just said, look, if I do this training, can I then become a fitness therapist for the inpatients? And again, someone was listening and they said, yeah, why not? You go ahead, do your training, come back, and you can do 5 hours a week with the inpatients. And then that's where my life with mental health patients come from, because I was there for 11 years with the mental health patients and doing the accountancy. I never just dropped accountancy. I did both, and I still do both, but to a lesser degree, the accountancy and more the health coach.
Wow. So again, you knew that it wasn't working for you. You made some choices, and again, you put yourself out there by asking the right people. I think that's a theme that I think, not just in yourself and myself, but in everyone I've seen make serious change their life, and regardless of whether they deem themselves to be really successful or not, it's a level of success in that
it is.
You've managed to facilitate a different pathway for yourself. And
Yeah.
I've seen in people this ability, almost a need though, to get up and actually ask someone, can I do this? If I did this, would you allow me to do that? I think that's another important takeaway, because a lot of people don't understand the rule of, if you don't ask, you don't get. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to ask and you're still not going to get, but you're pretty certain not to get if you don't even ask in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared of asking, Dax. I was really scared of asking. But as you said, if you don't try, you're never going to know. And if they say no, you think, okay, I've asked them. Sometimes when people do say no to me, I sort of like go, oh, okay. And I go away and I'm thinking, but I really do want to do that. I really want that. So then I go and ask someone else, and I just keep pushing forwards.
Sure. You know why people are so terrified of asking? Essentially because they're scared of the rejection. People can't separate the rejection of an idea from a rejection of themselves. A lot of us have so little self-esteem in our self-esteem bank accounts that if we're told, well, no, I don't want to offer you that job, or I don't want you to take that position, or I don't want you to start doing fitness classes at the Priory, we tie that up in, we extrapolate it further out and we say, it's because they don't like me. They think I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Where actually the answer might be no for a multitude of other reasons. Maybe they don't have the budget, maybe they don't want it, maybe they can't see the value in it, but we extrapolate that and we say, they don't think I'm good enough. So this is why, because we're in such fear of being personally rejected, we tend not to extend ourselves and go and ask for the things that we want, because we believe it's about us, and it really isn't.
No,
right?
You're right.
And
yeah.
so it's building up that I was going to say belief. It's not even belief. It's just it's building up the ability, and it's kind of like being in a gym, building up your muscles, right? You kind of, when you first go to gym, you're a bit weak, you're a bit flabby, you can't lift very heavy weights. Every time you go, you put yourself up against that resistance, and by meeting the resistance, you get a little bit stronger. By meeting the resistance in other people, you also get a little bit stronger, because after a while, you start to see that it's not about you as a person. It's usually about the idea. They don't like the idea, or they don't like how you may have presented the idea, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's about you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what's cool about you is that you've consistently just put yourself out, even when it scared you to do so. You still put yourself out there.
I've been scared so many times, you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So many times, but my pain was so unbearable that I just thought, I can stay here and die,
Yeah.
or I can move on and do what I want and be happy. And that's the driver, really. I never thought like that back at then, but now I can
Yeah.
see that's what I did.
And that's also the driver. We finally get there. The driver for your new book.
It is,
Right? Kind of,
absolutely.
kind of wanting to move away from the pain and deciding finally to take control of your life and be happy. Tell me about the book.
Okay, the book came about March last year. I tried to write it myself about 5 years ago, but every time I wrote people's names, I got cross, angry, resentful, and I just end up in tears all the time. So I put it away. But I thought, but the story, it needs to be told because I've moved on with my life, and I've, like yourself, had a deprived background. So that in itself shows people that if they're in a similar situation, they can move on with their life if someone else has done it. So that's what I wanted. I knew that the story would come out eventually, but I couldn't do it. I come to FEB, Fitness Entrepreneurs Bootcamp, last year, and you lot, John Latok and yourself and other people were talking about being your authentic self. If you show people who you are, what you're about, you'll build a relationship with them, you'll get an affinity with them, and you can just, I don't know, be yourself. And that really resonated with me. So on my list of 1 to 10 of things to take away and do, book was number 10. So I thought, right, and I looked at that list and I thought, right, what's going to excite me to really do this year? And I thought, my book, it just gut feeling, book, book, book. So I thought, but I can't write it. So I was friends with Karen Lang. She's a journalist and also a Fit Pro. And I got in contact with her and I met her in London and I just said, look, I want to write my book. Can't do it myself. I don't like that word, can't. I would find it too challenging. It'd take me too long. I need to just offload and let someone else write it. And she said, yeah, okay, we'll come to an agreement and I'll write it for you. So I paid Karen to actually write the book for me, but I would put it all on voice for her, or I'd write it down and then she'd collate it all. But this process was only meant to take 3 months, but obviously it took a lot longer. As I started going through stuff, I had little mini breakdowns all the way. I had to get hypnotherapy in between to deal with some of the issues that were coming up. And I started up a Facebook group, a private one, just between my siblings, my 2 brothers and my real sister, and then my 2 half sisters who have subsequently come out of the book. And we just were starting to talk to each other about our own experiences, and we found out that we were all trying to protect each other, so we didn't tell each other the truth whilst we was growing up. But in this group, we just put it all down, how we felt, what was done to each of us, etc., etc. And a long story cut short, my brother tried to commit suicide a couple of times. My other brother took drugs. They were both angry. They used to beat up on other people before they got hurt. My brother nearly lost his children. My younger brother's not had any children because he doesn't want to put them through what we went through. And my sister's still trying to get the help she needs. So Karen, I hired her to write the book. I dealt with my issues over the year as I went through with the hypnotherapist. I started to blog, Chris Tuck My Story. So I was blogging about writing about the blog, and I was honest and as transparent as I could be. But sometimes I had to almost disappear for a couple of days and protect myself because I was too vulnerable, and I couldn't write about those moments because that was, I don't know how to say this. I just felt that if I felt people would judge me because I was showing my weakness, I was showing that I couldn't cope in those particular episodes. So I would write that I've had a trying day today, but what that trying day meant was I'm actually in a corner sobbing my heart out, not knowing what to do, or but I got over that, and the book's alive and it's just being I'm self-publishing through a publisher, and it's a sad read, but it's a book of hope, and it's a book of as you say, small successes and going after what you really want out of life, and knocking down every brick wall that's put in your way and just carrying on until you get to your goal. That's what it's about, really.
Mm.
And yeah, I am proud of it, but I'm also quite overwhelmed and scared of what people are going to say about it.
Yeah, of course, I can understand that completely. But what you've just, even just in the telling of the story of how the book came to be, I mean, that to me is pretty amazing in itself, right? So, it's a deeply personal, and for a lot of people, kind of heartbreaking process. I mean, it clearly has been for you to put it together, right? So, what you just reminded me of there was, you planned to write this thing, and you couldn't. Every time you sat down with it, you were overcome by the emotion which didn't allow you to complete it. Well, for a lot of people, that would have been a good enough reason to quit. But you sought another avenue. You said, okay, maybe it doesn't have to be my fingertips on the keyboard. Maybe it can
Right.
Maybe it can be somebody else's, right? I still want my story out there. I'm just not the one who needs to tap away on the keys. Someone else can do that, right? And I love that, because what that shows again, it really summarizes your approach to, from what I understand of you, to life anyway, is that it's not, just because you hit the big hurdle, which is, I can't sit down and write this myself. But that's not the same as quitting. It's not the same as giving up. You just found a different way, right? Which I think is fantastic. What I also like, and I know again it was painful for you, but what I really like is your story about how how authentic and how vulnerable you were even in the creation of it. Like you're writing this thing about how to get through things, and yet you're still going through the things. It's not like you say, oh, by the way, I'm Chris Tuck and I've arrived and everything in my life is brilliant. I just saw you get emotional there just now, just talking about it, right?
See, I thought I had though, Dax. I thought at 30 I had everything, and I thought I was over everything, but
Right.
nah.
Right.
No.
Right. But what's really really cool there though is that you're telling the story that, which is exactly what coaching is like, and that's what I really love about what you just said. That's exactly what coaching is like. At some point when you're dealing with the painful bits that you've buried, you generally tend to experience the pain again. And most people crap themselves at about that point. They go, this is not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to pull any of this stuff up and have to deal with that again. It was painful enough the first time. And they throw it down into the bottom of the basement again and lock the door and hope that it doesn't show up. But it kind of does, doesn't it? It may not show up. It may not show up in terms of the conversations you're having every day, but it turns up in the thoughts and the way you live your life. And so,
absolutely, yeah, it's holding me back.
Right. Okay. So I love the fact that I know it's been a lot of pain for you to go through, but I love the fact that you could be so honest about going through that pain in terms of dredging up the story again. Pulling it up. It also puts for me a lot of value into this project, into this book, because we're talking about a real person, as opposed to a kind of a caricature story of. Now I know it's very very easy to talk, particularly in a lot of these motivational and coaching based books, and talk about how you went from rags to riches, and kind of you went from this really bad place to a really 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 good place, and everything is kind of fixed now, and life is all smelling of roses. It's much harder to say that actually even just the process of getting this story out was quite a painful and traumatic process, and I'm still dealing with it. I think that in itself is a powerful message to people, that you don't have to be healed. I think why a lot of people despair is because they can't ever imagine themselves being healed, right? But you don't have to put it into pure black and white that I am healed. You can say, am I doing everything in my power to start the healing, not am I healed?
Yeah.
And again, that's another powerful story in there, that okay, you're still going to be painful. Like when you cut yourself and it's actually healing, it's still painful. You touch yourself where you cut yourself, where the bruises are, and you're like, wow, it's still sore, but you're healing.
Yeah.
And you've taken every step of the way. You've taken these proactive steps to say, hey, I'm in pain. Let me move to the next level. How do I get away from the painful part? Just so happens to be that through this part of your story, you've had to go back into the pain for a little while to deal with it.
But I can honestly say now, having nearly finished it, because it's with the publisher at the moment, I feel so at peace. It's really, really weird. I just feel, I don't know, like a lot of weight has been lifted off my head, and the fact that I know that just being able to write it in the Facebook group with my siblings and understanding and getting better relationships with them, and my sister, she's been writing some fantastic poetry lately, just coming from her heart, and that's going to help loads of people. But she, it's not going around her head anymore, and it's almost like someone said to her, it did happen, it was real, and you can now put that bag down. You don't need to carry that bag on your shoulders. You don't need to be carrying it around in your head anymore. You are free. You're not that child anymore. You are an adult, and you can take charge of your life. Whereas before this, she hasn't been able to do that.
Right.
So when the book was put together and she read it, and we started having this the conversation between us all, she's been able to tell us exactly what went on, and I'm now getting her the help that she needs.
Right. I mean, that's if for no other reason. I mean, that one thing.
Yeah.
If nothing else ever came out of you writing the book, that would have changed a lot of things already, which is amazing. Right. So when's the book out, and what's it called?
It's called Through the Eyes of a Child, and it's going to be out on the 1st of September. I'm actually going to have a book launch for it, which of course you're invited to. I've been organising that today. But on the back end of the book, Dax, I felt that I didn't just want to leave it there. I've set up a private Facebook group, secret Facebook group, which is called facebook.com/groups/SOBBTC. And anyone that's gone through similar experiences to you and me can request to join that group and get the help and advice from myself and Melanie Colley, that you know as well, who has also had an abused background, similar background. And it's just a group where people can ask advice, get support, and just be listened to, because that is one of the key things, is having someone to listen to you without judging you. And that's the secret Facebook group. But Mel and I have also been working on a online health and wellness program called Breaking the Cycle, which will help people similar to ourselves that are stuck in their life and can't move on, and who want to learn how to love themselves again, so to look at their mindset and heal themselves through nutrition and fitness, which Mel and I and yourself are strongly into and believe that is the way forwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, I literally was just about to ask you what the aim of this book is. You know, what do you want people to most take away from reading Through the Eyes of a Child? What's the big takeaway for them?
I want them to understand that they have choices in life, and they can choose to stay where they are and be miserable and let people dominate them, or they can choose to find people in similar situations, find how they dealt with it, and then take action, whatever action is, small, big, whatever steps they need to take to get themselves out of the situation that they're in and that they're unhappy with, and get them into a life that they want to live. That's what I want to achieve for everybody that reads that book.
Nobody chose for the stuff to happen, but you can choose to keep picking the scab, and you can choose to keep living a life where you look at your pain every day and say, oh, well, that pain defines me. That's where the choice lies. No little child decided that they wanted somebody to come along and abuse them, whether physically or sexually or whatever. But you, as an adult, every day you wake up and you make the choice and say, okay, I'm going to put my victim hat on today, and I'm going to continue to choose to be that person. That part is where the choice lives.
Yeah.
And I think I love the stories that you're telling here, because each story is one of saying, okay, I'm choosing not to be this way anymore. I'm choosing to have something different in my life than the life I'm currently experiencing. You know? And
I think that's the biggest message that the book is really giving out, and what you say all the time as well, is that is where the choice lies, is do you stay where you are and be miserable and keep moaning? Because if you stay there and you moan all the time at people turn off to you. They don't want to hear it anymore. They want to hear that you're helping yourself and moving on, you know. And when people do or when people have given me the help, I don't want to go back to them and say, woe me, oh, listen to me, poor me, blah, blah, this has happened to me, blah, blah. I want to come back to you and say, you know what you said to me, I've now used that, I've listened to you, I've turned it round, and this is what I've done. And I think that's where you get the reward, because you've helped someone. And this is what I do with my clients, you know. I find it really frustrating still when I help people, and I don't mind helping anyone, hand on heart, I really don't. But when they come back to me week in, week out and tell me that they haven't done that because, I'm like, well, no, look. It don't work like that. If you want my help and advice, you need to act on it. You need to take yourself forward, because I can't live your life for you. I wish I could, but I can't. So at some stage, you have got to take responsibility for yourself, because I've been where you are. I understand the reasons and the excuses, the barriers, whatever you want to call it. But at some stage, I had to take the action. No one could do that for me. And that is all I can do for you, is say, yes, I understand, but now you need to take the step to get you out of that to where you want to be. And it is hard, but until people really understand that, you can't help them as a coach.
So this new program and this new organisation you're setting up, it's really about kind of empowering people to take that first step.
It is, yeah, empowering them, building their self-esteem up, Dax, getting them to understand where they are and why they are like that. And then, sorry, this is my daughter just coming to say hello. Okay, I know. And then you know, and getting them to move on, but empowering them to take the responsibility for them to move on.
So okay, so the book is coming out on the 1st of September.
It is.
And where will we find out about that? Where's that going to be launched?
I'm doing the book launch on the 1st of September in my local area, and then it's coming out in bookstores and online on the 2nd of September. So, but in the first instance, if people would like to get a copy of the book, they can go to christuckmystory.com and just register their interest that they want a copy of the book, and that'd be fantastic, because, as I said, some of the proceeds from each sale of the book will be going to help people.
And you're saying the organisation you set up is survivorsofabuse.org.
Of abuse.org.
So in closing, as you know, kind of, you've written this book to help people take the first step. You've created this organisation that's going to be coming online soon as well. What is the one big, you know, I guess if someone's sitting here listening to this call right now and they're thinking of kind of, you know, things aren't necessarily right in their lives and they're looking at making a change, what one big takeaway would you like listeners of this call to kind of get away with?
I would just like them to understand that whatever they've gone through is not their fault, but they can choose to stay or they can choose to go. And it's not always easy to make that choice, but they have to make the choice. And once they've made the choice to make a change, then they will all of a sudden find a way to achieve what they need to do. Yeah,
I believe that too. One of the ways I always put that is that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that. Yeah. No, but it's another way of saying no one else is going to fix it for you. Basically, if part of your life is broken, it's your responsibility to fix it. You're not the one who broke it. It wasn't your fault. But you're the only one with the screwdriver to fix it now. Yeah. Chris, thanks very much for giving me your time today. I'm really looking forward to both seeing the book when it finally comes out. I've seen a whole bunch of your advanced stuff. It's brilliant. And really looking forward to seeing that come out. And I know that both the book and the organisation are going to help a hell of a lot of people. So thanks in advance on their behalf as well.
Thank you very much, Dax, just for being my mentor, really, and helping me through what I've gone through. Because as you know, when I used to come to personal train at your studios, I would often be very upset. And, you know, Julie and yourself helped me through all of that. And you helped me through my hip surgery. You've helped me through becoming the person I am today. And just want to thank you for that as well, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here and having this conversation.
Well, it's been my complete pleasure. It's been my pleasure to actually watch you grow as a fit pro and as a coach and every other way. So well done, Chris.
Cheers. Thanks, Cheers. All right, then. Speak to you soon, Dax.
Cheers.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.